American Ballpark in Cincinnati. The New York Mets play the Cincinnati Reds. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Verizon. Don't miss a moment of Mets baseball on the largest, most reliable 4G LTE network, only from Verizon. By Bob's Discount Furniture, home of the world-famous Bob-O-Pedic memory foam mattress. By Fidelis Care, quality health coverage, it's our mission. By Geico, over 75 years of savings and service. And by Mazda, driving matters. Well, it's time for the Mets' annual September pilgrimage to the Queen City. Third straight year, the Mets have made their annual trip to Cincinnati in September. It's a city where the Mets have had a lot of success recently, and they might have a chance to do a little celebrating while they're in town. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Cincinnati. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you tonight as Mets open a 4-game series against the Reds. Mets have 10 games to play. They've got a magic number of 5. That could be reduced momentarily with Baltimore leading Washington in the 9th inning right now. But the Mets are probably happy to get away from home right now after a 3-6 homestand, their first sub-500 homestand of the year.
Well, they struggled at home, and offensively they struggled, and pitching-wise, everything just kind of, the wheels fell off. I think a lot of it had to do with the team following Cespedes' lead. He kind of fell into a slump. He couldn't stay hot forever, and the team fell in a slump with him. They've been well on the road, 20-5. You see the numbers right there. That's pretty much right at the trading deadline. The complete turnaround on the road. They're 500 on the road now, and they got 10 games left. 7 of them are on the road. That's where they're going to win it, on the road.
And they'll be playing in 2 good hitters' ballparks on this road trip in Cincinnati and in Philadelphia. Steven Matz will make the start tonight for the Mets. It'll be the first time Matz will face a team he has faced before. The Reds were the opponent in his debut.
Well, yes, he debuted against the Reds. That was back earlier in the season. It was a 7-2 win. This is his 4th start since his return. 2-0 during those 3 starts with a 2.02 ERA. But he struggled. He's still searching to find that old form that he had earlier when he was called up.
And coincidentally enough, the opponent for Matz will be the same guy he pitched against in his first start.
Well, he's Josh Smith here is 0-2 on the season in 18 2/3, 22 hits, 15 walks, 4 home runs, in a hitter's ballpark. Maybe a good recipe for the Mets.
So the Mets open their final road trip of the season in the Queen City of Cincinnati. The Mets and Reds, all the action coming your way tonight right here on SNY.
Well, I can see playing Curtis a shift on the infield, and I certainly wouldn't give him the right field line in the outfield.
It's just interesting to me that every team gets the same spray charts, the same information, and they choose to do different things with it.
And we know that Curtis never bunts, and Frazier playing in tight.
Here's David Wright. David had a nice series against the Braves, 3 for 7, including a home run 2 nights ago, and he takes a knee-high strike, and it's now a final in Washington. The Orioles have beaten the Nationals 5-4. That was a back-and-forth game. Matt Wieters hit a 2-run homer in the top of the 8th off Blake Trinan to decide it, and the Mets' magic number is now down to 4.
And we're going to go with Rusty, the old Rusty number, 4?
You can go with Lenny.
Oh, we could go with Nails. You're right. Okay.
Swoboda wore 4.
So we're covered.
You got plenty of options.
So the Nationals have just had a disappointing year. All that talent. What is it, 4 games over 500 here?
4 games over 500 for the season now.
Who would have thought it? So the Mets getting help from the Orioles.
1-2 to right with Daniel Murphy on deck. Well, the Orioles still have something to play for, and that probably helped the Mets during that series. Baltimore with the win, now just 3.5 games behind Houston for the second wild card. It's a long shot for them, but they've still got a chance. Darren O'Day closed it out for them, got the save with Zach Britton unavailable. And David chases a pitch out of the strike zone, and Smith has his first strikeout, 2 men down.
Oh, good hard slider here from Smith. We were talking earlier, Gary, if the Nationals had a good last 10 games, they'd be right. This race would be tight.
Well, Mets have lost 6 of their last 8. They've certainly opened the door, but with that loss this afternoon, the Nats are now 7 games behind with 9 games to play. So their task is monumental. And the curveball in for a strike to Murphy.
I can tell you right now that I've been on teams that have gone through stuff with the Nationals have gone through. That clubhouse is a morgue.
Well, how about what happened last night with Jonathan Papelbon drilling Manny Machado? And then post-game, Bryce Harper basically saying, well, why did he do that for? Now I'm going to get drilled.
Well, Machado hit a home run and evidently did a little mustard around the bases. But if you look at Papelbon on the tape, he hit him up in the upper shoulder, almost the neck.
Yeah, not the kind of place you want to hit a guy.
You want to hit a guy. If you're going to do something, send a message, you hit him in the fanny.
Murphy's been swinging the bat better than anybody on the club this last week. 6-game hitting streak, 9 for 21. 5th in the league in doubles now with 36. 2 out and nobody on, and Murphy sends one down the left field line. That'll go foul.
Well, the sun's going to set a little late here. We're on the western side of the Eastern time zone as usual. Cincinnati never moves.
Not recently, anyway. And the backdoor breaking ball misses, and it's 2-2. This is a great home run hitter's park. It's only 325 down the right field line, 370 to right center, and there's a following breeze that just blows everything out to right. Great left-hand hitters home run park, but the ball does carry to all fields.
Well, right here where the ballpark is situated, over the right field fence is the Ohio River, a really lovely setting. Looking over into Kentucky to the south, so you always have a westerly breeze, so there's also the breeze that will blow it out to left field, which makes this a complete hitter's ballpark as far as coming in here and hitting home runs.
Well, it's reflected in the numbers. The Reds pitchers are giving up 162 home runs this year. Murphy grounds one behind the bag. Votto, the former Gold Glover, plays it, and Josh Smith has a 1-2-3 opening inning. Steven Matz will take them out for the Mets when we come back to Cincinnati.
The Volkswagen Passat Limited Edition.
Well, he's only made 5 major league starts, but he has been a phenomenon. Steven Matz 4-0 with a 1.80 ERA, and he makes his 6th big league start tonight. Jason Bourgeois leads off for the Reds, and Matz's first fastball is in for a strike. Bourgeois getting time in center field with Billy Hamilton done for the year with a shoulder injury. And he bangs one off his leg, a foul ball, and it's 0-2.
Well, Matz in his last, his 3 starts since coming back, he has struggled a tad, and he's battled through. We told you his numbers in those 3 starts. 2.02, but didn't have his changeup. And last start didn't have his curveball, but he battles through. That's what I like to see.
And he uses the curveball to strike out Bourgeois for the first out. There's the Reds starting lineup brought to you by Hyundai. Votto's had an amazing second half. Frazier 35 home runs. Bruce has had a good last couple of months, so it's still a very dangerous Cincinnati lineup.
Well, they've got a lot of power in this lineup, that's for sure. And there's the numbers, the Jeep numbers for Steven.
It's fascinating because you're right. He hasn't had great command since coming back from the DL. 3 starts. And yet he hasn't given up more than 2 runs in any of his starts, which is a real tribute to his ability to battle through. Ivan DeJesus, utility man, making his 37th start of the year at 5 different positions, and he takes outside a ball and strike. Matz introduced a new pitch into his repertoire in his last start against the Yankees last Friday. Started throwing a slider for the first time.
Well, he likes to pitch to right-handers inside. I like that. I felt his last start out, he was tipping quite a bit, his curveball, slowing down his motion. I'll keep an eye on that. And that was something we didn't see in spring training, and we didn't see in his first 2 starts. So, you know, it's unfortunate that he got hurt. He's trying to get it back. Each start for him now is a building block for the postseason.
3-1 to DeJesus, and he lines one to right field for a base hit. So Ivan DeJesus with a 1-out single, and that'll bring Joey Votto to the plate.
Well, Joey Votto, here's the pitch right here. Fastball not in enough. Muscled and hit hard into right field.
Well, Votto, since the All-Star break, has been almost unstoppable. In fact, you go back to the end of May, his on-base percentage is over 500. He's already drawn 137 walks this year, which is the most for anybody since Barry Bonds retired.
Here's the location, not in enough, able to kind of inner half of the plate, muscle it out into right field. Votto always in great shape.
Had the injury-plagued year last year, has bounced back with a great year this year, and the curveball in for a strike.
Hitting .314 coming into this game, and hitting .314 against lefties with 7 home runs and .314 against righties.
Second in the league in on-base percentage, 4th in slugging, leads in walks, 29 home runs. DeJesus at first and 1 out. And Votto takes a slider for a strike. There's that pitch from Matz.
Votto, big, strong guy. There's his numbers since the All-Star break and his rankings. You can see, look at that. On-base percentage, you got to be kidding me.
It's all presented by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Enter promo code NYM for free entry. 1-2 coming. And he fouls back the fastball. Well, Votto led the National League in on-base percentage 4 straight years. Before last year, he only played 60-some games, was hurt. And only Bryce Harper is in his way from leading the league in on-base percentage again. Harper having an MVP year, leading the league in both on-base and slugging.
Notice the choke-up, kids.
Line into center field, a base hit for Votto. DeJesus pulls in at second. Thought he might have a notion about going to third, but it's not going to challenge Cespedes. And the Reds have 2 men on.
Well, Votto's always been a good 2-strike hitter. Even though he strikes out, he got 122 strikeouts this year. Hits that breaking ball, stays in. That's how it's done. He's almost got a 2-inch choke up on the bat, Gary.
He is an on-base machine, isn't he?
I wouldn't want to get in a fight with him either.
Bill Welke knows that. I mean, he had his snap a couple of weeks ago against Welke. It earned him a suspension.
I'd run.
Here's Brandon Phillips hitting cleanup. Phillips has had a nice stretch coming down the end of the season, and he takes one foul. Phillips, the last 51 games, hitting .335.
And we'll take a quick look at the Mets defense, brought to you by Lexus. And there's your right-handed outfield, with Conforto all in left, of course. Tejada 3 for 3, as Gary mentioned, and he's in the lineup today. Got to get Duda started over there at first base, and d'Arnaud, after a day off, had a nice day at the plate.
So a first-inning problem for Mats with 2 aboard and 1 out, and Phillips has to move back 1-1. Remember, Steven gave up a home run to Brandon Phillips, leading off first batter he faced in the big leagues back in June. Also had first inning problems in his last start against the Yankees. Gave up a run and worked out of what could have been further trouble. So he finds first inning difficulties again tonight. Todd Frazier on deck. And Phillips pops one up. Duda over near the tarp and up onto the tarp, but runs out of room.
Well, the Reds are a team with a big power guys in the middle, but you know they're 11th in runs in the National League, so they're just means they're not hitting in the clutch, and you can't live and die by the home run. They're 6th in the National League in home runs,
but 8th in on-base percentage, 7th in slugging. They lead the league in steals, but that's almost all Billy Hamilton, who's not with them now. 1-2 coming, and Phillips grounds one toward the hole. That's a base hit. DeJesus around third, being waved home. Here comes Conforto's throw to the plate. d'Arnaud reaches for it and can't make the tag in time. DeJesus scores, and the Reds take an early 1-0 lead. Brandon Phillips drives in his 67th run of the year. 3 straight hits against Steven Matz produce a first-inning run.
Well, good hitting by the veteran, coming inside with a fastball. And it's inside, but it's down. And Conforto here, the throw's a little bit offline. If it's online, they nail DeJesus. But more importantly, Gary, as we said, we've seen from Conforto, he doesn't miss the cutoff man. Runners couldn't advance.
So Vados at second, Phillips at first, still only 1 out, and now the very dangerous Todd Frazier. 35 home runs this year, and he takes the curveball for a strike.
Always hits the cutoff man, has a strong enough arm. That's a very strong throw. It's just off the line a little bit. If it's an accurate throw, he's out. So Steven, who likes to pound the right-handers in, may have to, over a period of time, I think, come to the realization that he may have to go use that outside corner a little more, too, against the right-handers. Go in and out a little more. And I like the fact that he likes to pitch aggressively in.
0-2 to Frazier, and the breaking ball. He strikes him out for the second out. So 2 strikeouts in the inning for Matz, making liberal use of his curveball in the first inning.
Well, I like his curve so far. I like coming out of the chute, even though he's given up 3 hits in a run, Gary. I like his stuff. I think it's the best stuff he's shown since he's come back.
So now 2 out and 2 on for Jay Bruce. Bruce with 25 home runs, has driven in 83. Votto at second, Phillips at first, and Matz overpowers him with the fastball, 0-1.
Well, Bruce just has regressed, has become an all-or-nothing hitter. Thought he had a chance to be a real superstar, Gare.
Had a miserable season last year and just a little better this year.
I think he kind of fell in love with long ball, became pull hitter, big, strong Texan. You know, he's hitting .229, 25 home runs.
Now in his 8th year with the Reds, a 2-time All-Star. 2 on and 2 out. And Bruce swings through the fastball, and it's 1-2.
Don't even waste your time. He's been tardy on both fastballs. Don't give him a chance by throwing anything slow up there to let him catch up. Beaumont, Texas. This is where my mom's from. All right.
He's like your homie. And Bruce foul tips it. Darno hangs on. Matt strikes out 3 in the opening inning, but in between, the Reds gather 3 hits and score a run. 1-0 Cincinnati after 1. Plan today and guarantee yourself access to Mets 2015 postseason tickets. Purchase tickets online at Mets.com/deposits. Postseason getting closer to being a reality. Mets magic number down to 4 with the Nats loss this afternoon. But the Mets down in this one 1-0 as they come to bat in the second. Yoenis Cespedes playing his 50th game as a Met tonight and takes inside from Josh Smith. Cespedes with 82 extra base hits, the most in the majors. 41 doubles, second in the majors. Smith gets a fastball over. Well, Steven Matz had plenty of good, and
I can't see
it.
Your
Gave
monitor.
up 3 hits.
So your monitor's very dark.
It's true. Just have to compensate.
Mine's dark too. They're working on mine.
It's kind of like when you were hitting and the pitcher was in sunlight and you were in shadow.
Oh, mine's fixed.
Of course.
I get preferential treatment. I get it done first. Well done.
That's what those gold gloves will get you.
That's right, amongst other things.
Cespedes gets a hold of one out to left center field. Back toward the warning track. Bourgeois at the fence, and he makes the catch.
Wow.
Now, Cespedes didn't get all of that, but he still hit it to the wall in left center, but Bourgeois able to catch up with it for the first out.
And very awkwardly after this ball, like, well, not really. It's really a tough sky right now. Hard to see. The lights have not really grabbed the field on fly balls. You still got. Did we decide on this being dusk or twilight, Gare?
It's whatever you care to call it. You can call it the gloaming if you'd like. That's a beautiful shot of downtown Cincinnati behind the ballpark.
You can walk to the park here if you like.
Yep. Lucas Duda on base 3 times last night with a double and 2 walks. Still just 7 for 41 since coming off the disabled list. Now 15 games since his return. These are days when the Mets are trying to move closer to a division title, and publicly that's all Terry Collins will talk about. But in the back of his mind, he's making evaluations too for what his postseason lineup and roster will look like, and Duda is one of those guys who right now is under scrutiny to see if he can get back to where he was. 2-1 to Lucas.
Well, they've been pitching Lucas at least in the homestand, and particularly the Braves. They pounded him belt high and letters in for strikes, and Lucas has got to learn to lay off that pitch. And all he did was pop it up. Had a couple of balls hit hard. He's walked a lot. But, you know, I don't want Lucas walking. I want Lucas swinging the bat. Because one swing, he can lose it.
And it's a great ballpark for him. Perfectly tailored to his power ability. And he takes the breaking ball for ball 4, and the Mets have their first base runner of the night. So a 1-out walk. Smith has really struggled with walks. When the Mets first saw him in June, it took him 109 pitches to get through 5 innings because he walked 4 batters. That's 16 walks now for Smith in 20 big league innings this year, and that's rather unsustainable. This is only his 5th big league start. He went down to the minors shortly after facing the Mets in June, came back as a September call-up, his 2nd start since returning. Here's Travis d'Arnaud. Travis had an encouraging night last night with a couple of hits to snap out of an 0-for-18 stretch.
Hit the ball hard. Had that day off.
Travis at .280 for the year. Slugging percentage still well over 500. And foul tip. 1-1.
Gets a little long with his swing, Travis, when he gets in trouble. That swing had a little loop to it.
Michael Conforto hitting 7th in the order, waiting on deck. Mets lost 3 straight series on that homestand.
Yes.
The Marlins, the Yankees, and the Braves. Their first losing homestand of the season, which is rather remarkable in and of itself. And Smith paints the outside of the knees, and it's 1-2. Josh Smith out of Lipscomb University in Tennessee. 21st round draft pick by the Reds. This is the 100th game this year that the Reds have had a rookie starting pitcher on the mound. 100. Including now 54 in a row, which is a major league record. And it will only increase in the last 10 days of the season.
Well, we were talking earlier in the open about the Mets' rush to 500 on the road. They're going 20-5. No Met team has ever had 20 wins over a 25-game period on the road.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all started in that series in Colorado, that road trip to Colorado and Philadelphia, where the Mets put up monstrous numbers. Here's a good breaking ball by Smith to strike out d'Arnaud for the 2nd out. 2nd strikeout for Josh Smith.
Slider, not a strike.
And on that trip to Colorado and Philadelphia, those are 2 great hitters' ballparks.
Yes.
And here are the Mets embarking on this trip once again, 2 great hitters' ballparks.
And 2 pitching staffs that you can do a little Brutus beefcake and load up on them.
Really?
Yes.
Here's Conforto, and he takes a strike. Really? Brutus
beefcake. That was just we used to throw it out there.
Is that a reference to anything in particular?
He's a wrestler. He was a wrestler back in the day.
Okay. Change up by Smith, and it's 0-2.
Oh, there's the slider grip, and they're like holding the ball as if you're holding an egg. Very interesting. They're very nicely done. Caught that on camera for you. Even I found that interesting.
Thank goodness.
There's Conforto, who is really come a long way, and I just think getting a world of experience here in the heat of a pennant race, what more can you ask for to be a rookie and be thrown into the fire like this?
And he has responded. Slaps one to the left side, past Frazier and into left center. Duda takes a turn and holds at second. So they put a shift on against Conforto, and again, we haven't seen that a ton. And there was nobody playing the shortstop position, and Conforto takes advantage for the first Met hit.
Should have been a 6-3 on your scorecard, and I don't agree with putting a shift on Conforto at all. You've got a hitter that can handle the bat, Gary, and you leave a side of the field open to him. He can take advantage of that.
It's just fascinating to me. The Mets just played a series against the Braves, who know them better than most teams, and you didn't see them shift like that against Granderson or Conforto. Now you play a team like Cincinnati that doesn't see the Mets as often, and they put on much more drastic shifts, and there got burned by it. Here's Ruben Tejada with 2 out and 2 on. Ruben 3 for 3 last night, hitting .405 in the month of September. And backhanded by Pena to prevent a wild pitch. Ball 1.
No, there's 2 outs. Runners on first and second, so the first baseman has no responsibility to hold a runner on. And note where Votto is positioning himself defensively. I just don't understand it. You're going to play back. There's no reason for that. I don't like that positioning at all.
Tejada takes a big cut of the slider, and it's 1-1.
Two outs.
Matz, who had a rollicking offensive debut against the Reds back in June, waiting on deck. Duda at second, Conforto at first, and 2 out. And Tejada grounds one down to third, and Frazier will take it to the bag to retire the side. Let's get their first 2 base runners, but come up empty. Middle of the second, 1-0 Cincinnati. Historic performances. Don't miss this 2015 postseason beginning October 6th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. Look at all those networks. Eugenio Suarez leads off in the home second for the Reds. Suarez took over as the regular shortstop when Zach Cozart went down in June for the season, and Suarez has been a very pleasant surprise, hitting .283 with 12 home runs in half a season.
It's nice to see major league players out there with normal physiques. It's been a trend lately.
Brian Pena on deck. Suarez picked up from the Tigers in a deal that sent Alfredo Simon to Detroit, and it's been a good deal for the Reds. Pulled toward the hole. Tejada can't get to it, and Suarez has a leadoff hit. Hit number 4 for the Reds off Matz, which is almost as many as they had against him in his season's best, his major league debut back on June the 28th against Cincinnati. He gave up a leadoff home run to Brandon Phillips, but he was in charge after that. Went 7 2/3, and he showed off his offensive muscle as well. 3 hits and 4 RBIs, the first pitcher ever to do that in his debut. He had himself such a great time that his grandfather nearly lost it. Well, maybe he did lose it. And that made Bert a star.
Have they found him yet?
There's his line from that day, both pitching and hitting. He threw 6 scoreless against the Dodgers in his next start, and then went on the disabled list for 2 months with a lat injury. Pena fouls one off, and it's 0-2. Catch and baby all at once.
He's a future red leg.
Payne to the switch hitting catcher. Behind on the count 0-2. Payne, who's done most of the catching this year, with Devin Mesoraco missing most of the season with a hip injury. They believe that Mesoraco will be back and at full strength next year. So this is a Reds team that has had some very important people go down over the course of the season. Payne has done a nice job filling in, hitting .281. And he grounds one foul. Pitcher Smith is on deck. This is Matz's 4th start since coming back from the disabled list, and with the Mets spreading out their starters, there goes the runner, and it's pulled to shortstop. Tejada lays out to get it, gets up and throws out Pena. Nice play by Tejada, as Suarez, who was running with the pitch, takes second.
Four stolen bases from Suarez. This is not a hit and run, straight steal. Nice play by Tejada. Finally got to one. The other ones were just out of his reach. Plenty of time to throw out the slow-footed Pena.
So 1 out, a runner at second, and now the pitcher Smith is 2 for 5 in his big league career, so he's hitting .400. He's taking the cue after getting battered by Matz in Stevens' debut. He gave up 2 of Matz's 3 hits. I was going to say about Matz, because the Mets are spreading out their starters, they've got 6 guys in the rotation right now. Steven will only have 1 more start before the postseason.
I don't like that. Oh, there's 10 games left. You're right, Gary. He's the falls on the wrong number. You're right.
I mean, he's pitching tonight on Thursday. The Mets have an off day, so he'll probably pitch next Thursday in Philly. There's a fastball, strike 3 called. Smith caught looking. And that's 4 strikeouts first time through the order for Matz.
You know, it's funny, 4 strikeouts through the order. Back in the day, you would have went, holy cow, this guy's got good stuff. Today, there's so many strikeouts. It's like it's like water drop falling off your back. You see it so often.
Jason Bourgeois struck out his first time up. Suarez at second and 2 out. And Matz picks off the outside corner, 0-1.
I like that. I like that fastball away to the righties.
DeJesus would be next. And Bourgeois with a half swing lines one into his dugout. Usually now with the fences in front of the dugouts, it's a safe haven. That one went over the fence and into the back row. Back when you played, you always had to be alert in the dugout because there was no fence.
Well, we never had any top steps either. You had the steps going up. You usually sat down.
That slapped over the bag but foul. But these days, guys have a sense of security sitting in the dugout because they've got that barrier, and yet every once in a while a ball will find its way in.
And they've got a whole bench set up there. Now, we didn't have that. We'd have to sit where you see the legs behind them. That's the old-fashioned bench,
well,
right
can you
there.
imagine trying to put 38 people into those old dugouts? Nets are carrying 38 players. The Reds are carrying 34. Inflated September totals.
Plus, the Mets are got a extra trainer called up, a manager called up, minor league manager.
Got all sorts of support personnel on hand.
It's like Patton's Third Army, all the auxiliary troops.
Now the 0-2, and the breaking ball misses outside. 1-2. Matt's throwing a lot of pitches early in this game, up to 42 now, trying to get the final out in the second. And now 2-2 to Bourgeois.
Look at DeJesus and behind home plate practically, not in the on-deck circle. He's getting a bird's eye view. You can see him on the left of your screen. That is, get in the batter's box, slugger. Or, yes, on-deck circle, excuse me.
Bourgeois chases the fastball away, and Matz gets through the second. 5 strikeouts in the first 2 innings for Steven. 1-0 Reds. Ballpark here in Cincinnati. By the way, it's over 600 feet from home plate to the river. Very unlikely anybody will hit one in the drink. Your Data Strong fan photo of the game brought to you by T-Mobile. It comes from Nick. And now Steven, who takes a strike. Well, Matz was victimized by Matz in Steven Matz's debut for a couple of hits. Steven had 3 hits and 4 RBIs in that game. He hasn't had a hit since. He's gone 0 for 9 since that debut.
The word got out.
I guess so. Curtis Granderson on deck, and then David Wright for the Mets in the third. And Matz hits one toward the middle of the diamond. Suarez flashing over. The quick toss, not in time.
Wow.
And Matz has an infield hit.
How does that happen?
Suarez was taking his sweet time, but Matz hustling all the way.
Yes, sir. Great hustle. It's a routine ground ball. And Matz gets himself not only a knock, but gets the team with a leadoff base runner. Well done.
So Josh Smith has got to be thinking, how do I get this guy out? Matz has 4 hits in his career, and 3 of them have come off one pitcher. Now Granderson the batter, Mets' second hit of the night. Curtis flied to left his first time up. You know, we were talking about how crowded the dugouts are before, and it's really no joke. The Mets have 38 players right now, and it's such a difference in terms of the feel in the clubhouse compared to the rest of the season when you've got 25 guys. And I can imagine from a manager's standpoint, it's got to present a whole new set of challenges.
Well, I don't think it presents that much of a problem for Terry. There's some good pieces for him that maybe he can utilize. Eric Young Jr., for instance, has become the pinch hitter. The Mets have no speed. A pinch runner, excuse me. As a player, and I've been on losing teams playing it out in September, and I've been on contending teams, you never minded when you were playing the season out how many players they called up. It was always good fun. You could teach them and, be tough on them, whatever you want to do, a part of them being their first shot in the big leagues. On the other hand, when you are contending, you did not want too many players called up getting in the way. There's business to be done. You're fighting for a pennant. Don't want any distractions, anything outside. You want to keep that cohesive team unit going on that you've gone from April to September, that point of the season, Gary.
Well, 2 things. One, in the Mets case, and it's kind of unique, none of the September call-ups are guys who were here for the first time. They were all either here earlier in the season or they're veteran players who were called up to give them a little bit of boost, whether an Eric Young or guys like Eric Campbell who were here for a good portion of the season. But what about the daily routines of just taking batting practice or eating in the clubhouse or whatever it is? It's got to be, I don't know, annoying for the guys who are playing every day that all these other guys are here?
I don't think so. In today, there's always time with call-ups, and there's been a lot to make sure everybody gets enough swings. And really, you know what? There's a hierarchy.
Granderson pulls one. Votto right at the bag. The step and throw, but too wide, and Matz arrives safely. Well, we've seen Votto over the years try and make some odd throws, and that one did not quite find its target as he takes the ground ball to the bag to get Granderson.
Well, he has time here. You got a pitcher. Boom! Look where Matz is. He could have set himself and thrown. No reason to rush that throw.
That's not the first time we've seen him make that play, though, Keith.
I understand.
Where he, tries to throw from a strange angle rather than making a more traditional throw.
We've seen him successful, but it doesn't make it right, Gary.
Right. So now David Wright with the tying run at second and 1 out. David struck out his first time up.
An important thing in here is look where Matz is in his position when he catches the ball. You got it. It's easy to make a double play and plant, even if you had a fast runner out there, because the ball was hit hard. So, Gary, we're getting back on the point we were talking about with the extra players. You remember Old Shea Stadium. All we had in the back room was the sanctuary where the press couldn't go. It was a tiny little TV room that only around maybe 7 players could get in there comfortably. And some, if you had 8 or 9 or 10, some were standing. In today's clubhouses, they've got a whole second embassy in the back. For crying out loud, you know? So it's not like you're getting cramped.
It's true in a lot of the newer places, certainly at Citi Field at home. But imagine if this team right now went to Wrigley Field.
It would be a major issue. And the benches aren't as wide at Wrigley Field. It would be a serious problem. But I don't think it's anything that's a burden on Terry. My feeling at being around Terry is Terry would rather have less players here.
Mm-hmm. David drives one to the gap in left center field. That'll tie up the ball game. Mets will score easily. Wright goes to second with an RBI double, and the Mets get even at 1.
Well, good signs from David. Matt's helping his own cause, helping the Mets' cause. Let's see the pitch. Fastball out over the plate, belt high. Nice to see David starting to drive the ball.
Wright had a game-tying hit in the 7th inning last night and a game-tying hit in the 3rd inning tonight.
Fastball that bled over the outer half, belt high, nice pitch to hit.
So now Murphy, who grounded out his first time up, he pulls one through the hole, a base hit. Right to third. He's going to be held up there against Jay Bruce's strong arm. And a nice cutoff by Votto, and the Mets have runners at the corners.
Well, second time through the order. The Mets seem to have taken their measure of Josh Smith. That's a change-up, sinking, not away enough. Good hitting by Murph. By the way, Murph has been the one guy that's been really swinging the bat good.
Now has a 7-game hitting streak. Good base coaching by Tuffle to hold Wright. And a chance for Cespedes to get the lead run home. Cespedes hit one to the fence in left center that Bourgeois ran down in the 2nd inning. So 3 hits for the Mets here in the 3rd, with Matz getting it started with a hustling infield hit. Now Wright and Murphy aboard for Cespedes. Runs inside, ball 1.
Like to see Cespedes get back in a little streak here. You're getting close now. The Mets' magic number, if they win tonight with the Washington loss, goes to 4, so they'd have a 3.
3 if they win. Yeah.
3, so it'd be Buddy Harrelson.
Undoubtedly.
And no question, we won't have any argument about that. And it would be a 7.5 game lead with 9 to play, and that would pretty much say, see you later.
Well, for all of the angst that Met fans have been putting themselves through this last week, not too much to worry about. In the air to center field, that'll get the run in. Wright tags at third. Bourgeois makes the catch. Wright comes home with the lead run. Cespedes with the sacrifice fly, and the Mets lead 2-1.
Boy, it was a moonshot on that one. Just got under it. Oh boy, hanging slider. Lucky he didn't hit that on the screws. He might have hit it off the scoreboard in right left field.
He's had a couple of those the last few nights that 2 weeks ago he would have put in orbit, but just now happy to get the run home and get the Mets the lead. Now Duda with Murphy at first and 2 out. Lucas drew a walk his first time up. And that's driven to right, a base hit. It'll go back to the wall. Murphy streaking for third. Bruce gets to it. Murphy's going to be waved home. The relay throw by Phillips to the plate. Murphy slides and he's safe. Third run of the inning, and the Mets lead 3-1. Lucas Duda with an RBI double, and Murphy sliding home with a run.
Well, everybody getting started here. There's Bruce with the relay. Had to go get it there. Easy hop for Phillips. A little high throw. Not really. Not much of a...
Murph wasn't sure if he had touched the plate, but he had. He'd already been called safe by Adam Amari, so he flopped back in on top of the plate just in case.
Another hanging slider right there. And the Mets are teeing off, and that gets Jeff Pico out there, the pitching coach.
So you said it, second time through the batting order. Mets getting their measure of Josh Smith.
Here's my feeling, Gary. I want, and the Met fans should want this team to clinch quickly. Here's Murph scoring on the double. Murph's always hustling, tough, giving him the green light. But you want this team to clinch quick, take the pressure off of any kind of a... What did Murph do?
Dive back into the plate.
I don't watch anymore. I go into verbal mode.
But I know what you're saying. You want to clinch as soon as you can and rest some guys. And
not even rest. No, these guys need to play. They need to swing bats, and they'll be in non-pressure situations. Let them relax and find their rhythm, get their rhythm back right in time to go shoot right into the playoffs.
Darno pops up to end the inning, but the Mets score 3 in the third and lead 3-1. To SNY for behind-the-scenes access, player reactions, and a complete game breakdown with exclusive on-field interviews and Todd Bowles' post-game comments on Jets Post-Game Live, presented by Toyota, Sunday after the Jets-Eagles game, only on SNY. Well, Met fans have come to Cincinnati hoping that if the Mets are successful the next couple of days, maybe they can be in town and be in the building when the Mets clinch.
Cincinnati has a lovely zoo. They can, during the day, to bide their time, they can go up to the zoo.
Really?
Yeah.
You've been to the Cincinnati
I have not,
zoo.
but I've read about it, and it's supposed to be one of the best zoos in the country.
Steven Matz with the lead for the first time. Throws a curveball strike to Ivan DeJesus, who had a base hit and scored the Cincinnati run in the first. I'm partial to the Philadelphia Zoo myself.
Have you been to San Diego Zoo?
I have.
Yeah, that's nice, too. You walk in San Diego Zoo, you get worn out.
Well, the San Diego Zoo feels very ex-urban. It feels like you're in the country.
Yes.
Whereas the Philadelphia Zoo is more of a city zoo, more like the Bronx Zoo. So.
San Francisco Flyshacker Zoo is really lovely along the coast, the Pacific coast and the avenues just south of Golden Gate Park.
As long as they have giraffes.
I like the lion houses. I go there when they feed them at noon. And they're in their cages, and they ever go in there, and they're got around whatever. Usually in Fleisacker Zoo, they had like around 12 of them, different types of large cats, and they'd be growling for their food. It's pretty eerie to be in that room.
By the way, it's Bark in the Park night, in case you haven't figured that out.
We're going off on tangents here.
Is that a tangent?
Yeah.
Talking about lions and giraffes? Joey Votto on deck, and then Brandon Phillips for the Reds in the third. One and two to DeJesus, and it's outside. Matz has thrown a lot of pitches early in this game, and another long turn at bat. And what's interesting about that is he's thrown first pitch strikes to 10 of his 11 hitters, but he's been unable to put them away quickly, and that's built up his pitch count. DeJesus pops one up. Duda might have a play at the railing, and he does not. Into the second row, and the guy with the baby is right there on the scene again. Didn't catch this one, but he was right in the neighborhood. Same guy. And the baby's still as secure as ever.
He's got his glove, too, to protect that child.
Well, I think the right arm is for the kid. The glove is to catch a foul ball.
Oh, but there's a line drive. You gotta get that glove up there.
You can do both. Out to center field, and Cespedes eases over. And DeJesus retired, one away. Now Joey Votto, who singled to center his first time up. Votto, the former MVP, 32 years old, and he's in the second year of a 10-year, $225 million contract.
Interesting how, I mean, he's fit. He's in great shape. You can see that. Big, strong guy. Watch him hold his hands up high and then bring them down. Interesting.
And he lines another one. This one goes off the glove of Murphy, and Votto's aboard again. And that, I'm sure, will be another hit for Votto, his second of the night.
Just out of the reach. Daniel playing him back on the grass. Just can't get up enough.
He had to be Bobby Grich, a little taller second baseman.
Another USC guy.
You and I were talking off air about USC guys
Yes,
like
we were.
Dave Kingman and Mark McGuire.
Steve Busby. Seaver.
There's Brandon Phillips. And the good changeup by Matz. Nothing in one.
Can't forget Fred Lynn in that group, too.
Well, the interesting thing about Kingman and McGuire, two big sluggers in the big leagues, they both pitched at Southern Cal. Grounded down to third, a foul ball. Stopped by Wright, but third base umpire Ted Barrett right on the line called it foul. Nice sharing of the baseball in the stands.
Really?
Usually it's the adult who gives the ball to the child.
Right. Vice versa there.
Seen some outstanding family dynamics in the crowd tonight. All we're missing is Grandpa Bert. Here's the 0-2. And Phillips has to move his feet. Second time tonight that Matz has come in to Phillips and forced him to shuffle. 1-2. Todd Frazier on deck. Votto at first and one out. And Phillips goes down on strikes. Good fastball by Matz for his sixth of the night.
Like the fact that he's using the outside corner, both sides of the plate against the right-handers. He's already established inside against the righties, and that's going to make that fastball away much more effective, and his changeup.
So 2 out and a runner at first for Todd Frazier. There are only 3 players in the majors this year that have 40 doubles and 35 home runs. Yoenis Cespedes for the Mets. Josh Donaldson, who's going to win the American League MVP, we think.
Should.
And Todd Frazier. Only 3 players with 35 homers and 40 doubles.
Good pitch.
And that's pretty good company when the only other Red to do it is Frank Robinson. Lined and caught by David Wright in foul ground, and that retires the side. Steven Matz, 3 solid innings, 6 strikeouts, and a 3-1 lead after 3. Michael Conforto will lead off in the 4th. Baseball sometimes slowed to adopt technical advancements, but they're easing their way in, and Steve Gelbs has our report. Steve?
They are indeed, Gary. Starting this past Monday, actually, Major League Baseball allowing teams to have iPads in the dugouts. Now, right now, it's really just an electronic form of the scouting report binders that all these teams have in the dugouts. This is a bit of a trial run right now. Nothing beyond those scouting reports allowed in that iPad. But the hope is that as the years progress, next year, the year after, it can become a real tool for these guys. First of all, from something as little as maybe just being able to search a player's name, say Joey Votto, and all of a sudden his spray charts just pop right out in front of you, to the more advanced, possibly having video in the dugout now for guys to look at after taking their ABs. So a lot of possibilities for this iPad down the line.
Well, it certainly seems to make a lot of sense, but of course there have to be safeguards. You can't have the ability to watch the live game broadcast and steal signs. You wouldn't want to have that in the dugout, so they've got to tread carefully in that regard.
And Gary, right now they are being extremely careful about things to the point where after every game, 10 minutes after each game, Major League Baseball comes, they collect the iPads, wipe out all the data from that day, then the next day at 4 p.m., someone on the team, as Michael Conforto strikes out looking, but someone on the team has to upload the reports to a file sharing system, at which point Major League Baseball puts those files onto the iPad, returns them at 5 p.m. So right now, being very, very careful in the early stages.
That's fascinating. So you're not even able to tailor it necessarily the way you want to. The Major League Baseball's got to do it. And it makes sense because there's such the possibility for nefarious activity once you introduce that kind of device into the dugout.
Pandora's box.
There's Ruben Tejada.
I have no issue with, the hitting coaches have those folders with all the information.
Right.
And you see hitters looking at and I think it's overkill, but that's fine. It's all good stuff. Now you can have it on an iPad. It's less cumbersome for the hitting coach. As far as, and I'm just an old dinosaur. As far as looking at your at bats, I know you got an assistant hitting coach now. The Mets have one. The players going back underneath during game to watch, I don't like that. As a player, I would want my players on the front step of the dugout watching the pitcher, how he works. After the game, you can go look over all your at bats after the game's over.
But if you could do both, if you had access to your at bats in the dugout, so you could watch the game and watch your at bats, does that make any sense?
I think it's overkill, Gary. I really do. And it just brings to mind a wonderful quote today that I just stumbled across on the computer. Yogi Berra, of course. Yogi was asked the question, what did he think when he was hitting? And Yogi said, I did not like to think. He goes, and then Yogi said, very wisely, you can ask all the good hitting coaches. They will tell you, clear your mind when you get in the box, focus on the ball out of the pitcher's hand, and react. And I cannot agree more.
So you think that modern hitters come to the plate with their minds too cluttered?
No, I don't think. No, I can't collectively say that. I can't put it all in paint with a broad brush. I mean, there are some hitters it might be effective for.
Mats rolls one out to Frazier. Josh Smith has a 1-2-3 4th inning.
We can come back and talk about it, Gary, because this is a very interesting topic.
It's great fodder.
I find it very interesting.
Yeah. Mats will go back to the mound for the bottom of the 4th with a 3-1 lead. Nice nighttime view of downtown Cincinnati with the Ohio River in the background. Here's your city probables for the remainder of the series. Mets will have Syndergaard, Harvey, and DeGrom up against 3 rookies. DeSclafani, the lefty John Lamb, and Kivas Sampson goes on Sunday. Harvey, we think on Saturday, will throw 3 or 4 innings. That's the best guess right now. What's interesting about that is that if things break perfectly for the Mets, Saturday could be a day the Mets might be going for a clincher.
Yep.
And you might have a very limited Matt Harvey at the start of what could be a clinching game. Jay Bruce leading off in the home 4th inning. And Matz throws one by him, which he did his first time up as well. Steven has 6 strikeouts through the first 3 innings. He allowed a run in the first. He's given up a hit in each inning. But as generally has been the case, is negotiated traffic. Granderson moves over to catch the liner from Bruce, and that's the first down. It's been uncanny for Matz. It doesn't really matter how many base runners he gives up, how good his stuff is. He just seems to find a way, at least he has, through this relatively short sample of starts.
Well, those are the things you look for. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but there are certain axioms in baseball, and when you got a pitcher out there, you find out if he's got any guts. You find out in a hurry.
Here's Suarez, who had a base hit his first time up. Keith, I want to get back to the conversation we were having the last half inning about the balance between hitters these days looking for as much information as they can, and the balance between that and reacting when you're actually in the batter's box.
Well, you know, I always go by whatever Rusty Staub, my dear friend and former teammate, says. And Rusty said feels that a lot of that stuff is useful. But more useful, I think, for a veteran hitter, a rookie hitter, a young hitter coming up. I don't think you want to give them too much information. You know, I believe there's a little bit too much overcoaching today. But on the other side of it, and that's strike 3 right there, called inside corner. On the other side, the players today seem to want the information. They've grown up differently than myself and you. So if they want that information, fine. I think we've seen a lot of called third strikes, fastballs, because they're getting pitcher A throws this percentage of breaking balls in this count, that count. That's why I think we're seeing more called third strikes. But I'm seeing less. I don't see it that much with this ball club here.
Well, what's interesting is that there are some hitters who don't want the information, and some good ones, like Freddie Freeman in particular,
yeah, right,
who we saw yesterday have such a great day. He doesn't want all that stuff. He just wants to know that his foot is down on time.
And usually, Gary, it's the upper echelon hitters.
Right.
And that would be Yogi, of course. And I would put myself in that category. I see the ball and react. I couldn't agree more. I certainly wouldn't, when a reliever came in, I wouldn't want to go to a book and have it over information. All I want to know is this. Has anybody faced him? Okay, if you have a book, what's he? Sinker? How hard does he throw? Breaking ball? Does it downward break? Or is it a big curve ball? Change up? Does it sink? And then go get him. You know, go get him. And then you find out in one at bat. And if you face someone new, Gary, it makes you a better hitter. It made me a better hitter, not knowing the pitcher, particularly the September call-ups when you never faced him, because I had to hit like with 2 strikes on me, and it made me bear down more.
2-2 to Brian Pena, and he hits one foul. Let me ask you this: is it possible that the better hitters, who might have better pitch recognition skills, don't need help as much as hitters who have less chance of identifying a pitch out of a pitcher's hand and reading spin?
Well, you've got a lot of guys that couldn't hit a breaking ball if they, it was like wouldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
Right.
So they have to look breaking ball. So, okay, that would be a situation. Good call, third strike. Another strong inning from Mr. Matz. But you've got a point there. So there's a fine line here, Gare, and it should be the player's option what he wants and what he doesn't want.
3-1 Mets after 4. He struck out 8 to match his career high through the first 4 innings, and he's got himself a 3-1 lead. Mets posting 3 runs in the second. Wright, Cespedes, and Duda with the RBIs. So we go to the 5th with the Mets up 3-1. The Dodgers won earlier today. They were down early. Clayton Kershaw struggled, went only 5 innings, but the Dodgers scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 5th to get Kershaw a win. Chris Heisey hit a grand slam. So the Dodgers at the moment are 2 games ahead of the Mets in what could be a battle for home field advantage in a National League Division Series. There's Granderson leading off in the 5th, takes the curveball low and in.
And we mentioned yesterday how many times now Granderson has taken first pitch. Quite a few. It's been a pattern with Curtis. And I think Gary home field advantage is worth fighting for. Very, very important.
You know, there's been a lot of talk, and we've talked about it some, about if you start that series in Los Angeles, you probably get a couple of 5 o'clock games and face Kershaw and Greinke in the shadows. But I think that's not even the most important point, because the Mets will have 2 hard throwers going in those games too, whether it's DeGrom and Harvey or DeGrom and Syndergaard. I think the most important thing is to have a potential Game 5 at home.
Correct.
And the foul tip is held 2-2.
I always think that Game 3 in any series, whether it's a 5 or a 7, particularly in a 5, is the most important game of the series. Normally, because you usually get a split in the first 2.
Poke to the left side. Frazier the only man over there, and he throws out Granderson, 1 away. Well, remember the last time the Mets were in the postseason, they played the Dodgers in the division series. They had the home field advantage and won the first 2 games at home, and then won the 3rd game in Los Angeles to sweep the series. I don't know if they're going to be able to throw out 2 runners at the plate on the same play when they did in that series. That was one of the craziest things ever. Was it Jeff Kent and J.D. Drew tagged out by LaDuca on the same play? Here's David Wright, who doubled and scored in the 3rd inning, and he takes a strike.
If I remember correctly, Gary, back in '82 when we went up against 2 divisions, went up against Atlanta. That was that a 5-game set? We beat them 3 straight. That's right. It was a best of 5.
The LCS at that point was best of 5.
Best of 5.
I don't think it got to best of 7 till '85. I think.
Yes.
And of course, they added the division series when they went to the wild card in '95. Wright nubs 1 foul.
Well, I always felt that both championship seasons we had with the Mets, we had the best record in '86 and '88, and we had to open up on the road in both division championship games, which I thought was ridiculous. Why were we penalized with 108 wins, having to play game 1 and 2? And 6 and 7 in Houston, and then against the Dodgers we had the same thing. We had won 100 games that year.
Why was that?
I don't know. I don't know if it was alternating back then. It just never made sense to me.
I never thought about that. Wright takes one at the knees, strike 3. David thought it was low. Omari punches him out, and that's 5 strikeouts for Josh Smith, which is a new career high for him.
David didn't like that call, and we'll take a quick peek. He has a gripe.
Nice framing by Pena.
Too close to take, I guess.
So Josh Smith has retired 6 in a row, and now he takes on Murphy with 2 out and gets the curveball over. Murphy singled and scored a run in the 3rd.
Well, Murph has been, like I said, been the hottest hitter, steadiest hitter would be a better word for Murph. He has not wilted, and he's delivered a lot of clutch base hits. Let's give Murph some credit. He's offensively, he has been there down this stretch run.
Now hit in 7 straight games. Slider by Smith. It looks like he's getting better as this game goes along. 0-2. Cespedes would be next. Murphy able to waste away the breaking ball.
Smith has a decent breaking ball, but his delivery, he's got a lot of extra motion, a lot of moving parts in his. I can tell from a I'm not an expert like Ronnie on fundies in your windup. He's got a lot of margin for error with his delivery and his arm movement, and he gets hurt. When he got hurt in that third, he drops down too low, and his slider flattens out. He needs to stay on top of it.
Would all that arm movement, when he gets it right, though, make him tough to pick up?
Well, he hides the ball well. I don't know. I'd have to get in the box. I'd love to.
Seems like he cups it behind him.
I'd like to get in there and come back up, and I can really tell you.
You always said. Come back a 350 hitter again. We'd never see you. You'd go down there. You'd never come back.
Trust me, I would love to get back in uniform and play. We've all had our time and our day. It's not like golf. Can't play seniors.
They've got senior leagues.
I would break down. My lower half is shot.
That's driven into right field, and Murphy's got his second hit of the night.
And Murphy just continues to hit the ball hard. He has no issue with Josh Smith. See, there's a slider, Gary. Just a nothing slider. Too flat. He makes too many mistakes with that breaking ball. Murph just frothing at the mouth watching that one come in.
Reds have their bullpen working with Smith at 83 pitches in the fifth inning. Yoenis Cespedes steps in with 2 out and a runner at first. Cespedes has hit 2 fly balls to center field. The first one carried to the fence and was caught. Second one drove in a run with a sac fly. Cespedes has now driven in 104 runs this year, 43 of them in 50 games as a Met.
Well, he had a pitch to hit into the next county last time up. Got a sacrifice fly to center field, got a hanger. Just got under it. He's hit 2 balls deep in this game thus far.
And he takes the fastball off the plate, 1-1. That scored all 3 of their runs in the third. Steven Matz got it started with an infield hit. Wright doubled in a run. Cespedes a sac fly. Duda an RBI double. And now Cespedes drills one into center. And Smith fortunate he was not in the way.
That was a seed. This is like duck. Wow, that was a bullet.
He hits some balls awfully hard.
Yes, he does. All down, Gary. Loves that ball down.
Well, we've seen how pitchers have attacked him when they've gotten him out, right? Up,
and then bad breaking
and then
balls.
throw him in the dirt, and he'll chase.
Or off the plate. Outside corner, off, he'll chase.
But at the knees, over the plate, he's deadly.
And don't throw him up there a hanger or a pitch down the pipe. I mean, he can play.
So 2 out and 2 on now Duda, who's walked and driven on a run with a double. Chance to increase the Mets' lead.
Lucas got a RBI double in the third. That one on a hanging slider.
Coming into the night, lefties were hitting .345 against Josh Smith. And Pena had trouble securing that one, but no advance. 1-1. So Duda last night was on base 3 times with a double and 2 walks. Michael Lorenzen is up in the Reds bullpen. And Carlos Contreras starting to throw alongside him. So Duda on base 3 times last night, 2 more tonight. So he's reached base 5 of his last 6 plate appearances. Positive signs for Duda. Off speed pitch fouled off. 1-2.
A little bigger crowd than I thought we'd get tonight, Gary.
This is a baseball town, and even with the Reds having a terrible year, they're still out here supporting them in September. It's nice to see. 1-2. Taken low, 2-2. For some reason, the schedule maker has seen fit to bring the Mets for their only trip to Cincinnati in September for the 3rd straight year, and they'll be here in September again next year.
And a lot of 4-game series here all the time. Nice 4 o'clock start on Saturday, Gary. And the game will be over around 7. Have a normal dinner.
You are assuming the game might be over at 7. 2-2 coming. That's yanked foul. I mean, it is possible that Saturday, when the game ends, there might be reason for us to stay around here in the ball.
Oh, that's right, because they could clinch.
I mean, that would be if everything goes.
You want to go in that clubhouse? Get all wet?
I'm just saying that it might be required for us to hang around a little bit after the game. Not necessarily getting wet, but
Steve
just hanging out.
is going to get wet.
2-2 on the way. Grounded foul. Well, last night, was it last night or the night before, we showed the celebration from 2006?
Yes.
When we had Chris Cotter and Julie Donaldson in the Mets celebratory clubhouse after they beat the Marlins.
Chris barely made it through the season. I think he's happy where he's at right now. He's doing studio with NCAA, right? For CBS?
ESPN.
ESPN, that's right. Good for Chris. I loved it when he got. Did he get? Was he the one that got in the sausage uniform?
Yes, he did. 7th pitch to Duda, and he pulls that one foul. Yeah, Chris had some interesting times in that inaugural season for SNY in 2006.
Do you remember when he was out in the bullpen area in Philadelphia, and he was very uncomfortable with those rowdy fans around him?
They tried to send him up to the fans at the top of the stadium, and you know, it's a little trepidatious. You know, those Philly fans can get rowdy.
He got tired. He didn't get a second win. In August, he was done.
Cotter was great. 2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to Duda. And Lucas hits that in the air to right center. Over comes Bruce, and that retires the side. So the Mets strand a pair in the 5th. Halfway through in Cincinnati, the Mets up 3-1. to hit at least 300 with 30 home runs and 150 walks. 3 players have done that.
I got him.
Something that Joey Votto is chasing this year. Steven Matz, 8 strikeouts through 4 innings, already matching his career high. Ramon Cabrera, the pinch hitter, batting for Josh Smith, and he bounces one over the head of David Wright and into left field. A kangaroo base hit
nice.
for Ramon Cabrera.
Nice descriptive word for that base hit, Gare. I've never heard that.
And now you have.
And here it is, folks. This is a kangaroo hit. And that's pounding it. That killed a grub worm right in the home plate.
Remember when we were kids, Super Balls?
Yes.
That bounced like a Super Ball.
You know what balls I like, though? The glow balls. Remember them? You turn the lights out and you throw it around the room. It's a lot of fun.
I'm not sure that I remember those as well as you do.
It was the high school days. I won't say what.
Turning the lights out, that's something other than playing with the glow ball, I'm sure. Bourgeois struck out twice against Mats tonight.
We're getting our producer nervous.
You're giving me a billboard to read. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com with the official daily fantasy partner of the New York Mets. Enter promo code NYM for free entry. Not sure that changed the subject. Bourgeois lines one to center field, and Cespedes reaches out to make the catch.
Well, he can play.
Ball was hit very hard and stayed up for Cespedes, who harried in just enough to make the catch.
He can play defense. He has great instincts off the ball, running the bases, in the field. I haven't seen a player like this in a while.
It's probably the hardest hit ball against Mats tonight.
Very nice.
So 1 out and 1 on. And now Ivan DeJesus, who's 1 for 2 tonight. And Mats misses with the changeup. Throwing a lot of changeups tonight. 3rd time around the batting order now. Daniel Murphy in from second base to talk to Mats.
Like there'd been a fly on the wall with that conversation.
Now, you used to go to the mound.
A lot.
That's lined and a base hit for DeJesus. So 3 straight hard hit balls for the Reds to start this 5th inning. And they've got the tying runs on base and Joey Votto coming up.
So this is an interesting at bat coming up now to take a look and see how Steven Matz responds to this. Probably the best hitter in the league, or certainly one of the top 5 hitters in the league. Got a base hit last time up the middle, Gary, on 2 times. He gets 2 for 2. His first at bat, a single up the middle on a breaking ball. We'll see how Steven Matz attacks him.
Cabrera at second, DeJesus at first with 1 out. One thing about Votto is you just can't get him out of the strike zone because he won't chase.
Right. Well, quite a player, quite a hitter. And all good hitters, you've got to pitch them up and in, upstairs.
Votto pops one up, should be playable for right. And that is a big second out for Steven Matz.
Very risky pitch right there. The changeup stayed inside and bunched up Votto.
So 2 out and 2 on is left to Phillips. Fascinating numbers for Steven Matz. And again, it's a small sample size, but through his first 5 starts, the batting averages against him get lower and lower the dicier the situation he's in. Bases empty, 279. Runners on base, 146. Runners in scoring position, 091. He just has a knack for getting big outs when he needs them. And he's got another one to get here against Brandon Phillips, who's driven in the only Cincinnati run tonight with a first inning single. And the breaking ball line past right, a base hit. Cabrera around third. He'll come in to score. So Brandon Phillips with his second RBI hit of the night to trim the Met lead to 3-2. Now, Phillips has been a particular thorn in Matz' side. He homered against him first batter he faced in the big leagues, and 2 RBI hits tonight.
Hanging slider, not much of not the good curveball. Stayed up enough. Phillips, a .298 hitter against left-handers coming into this game.
So Phillips with his second hit and his second RBI tonight. Now the tying run in scoring position, and Todd Frazier the batter. Frazier has struck out and hit a foul line drive that Wright caught to end the third. And the fastball hit in the air to left field. It's deep. Back goes Conforto onto the warning track. Has enough room and makes the catch. Frazier making a bid, but comes up shy. And that's how Matz gets through the fifth with a 3-2 lead. They're trying to get it down even further tonight. Steven Matz allowed a run in that fifth inning, but Todd Frazier came up a little shy on his bid for a 3-run homer. Now the Reds go to the bullpen, and Michael Lorenzen, who's been starting for most of the year, makes his third relief outing.
Well, he had 21 starts, so this is his third relief appearance. The numbers are not pretty. Too many walks, too many hits.
Just 2 years removed from Cal State Fullerton, first-round pick by the Reds. Travis d'Arnaud leads off and takes a strike. Lorenzen, one problem he's had this year is too many walks. 4.7 walks per 9 innings. Obviously, far too many.
Which means, as a hitter, Gary, there's two things that can happen. You get a good fat one first pitch, fastball, or you can get ahead in the count and then go to ripping, like there.
Well, as a consequence of all those walks, the flip side is he's also given up 17 home runs in 108 innings. So it's been a rough rookie season for Lorenzen. But again, the Reds are going with an all-rookie rotation. They did with Lorenzen, and they've done so even after he's been pulled, and he strikes out Darno with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. So you can see why they like him so much.
Darno, little loop in the swing right now. Little slow bat.
Josh Smith went 5, allowed 3 runs, 7 hits, a walk, 5 strikeouts. He leaves on the short end of a 3-2 score. Conforto is 1 for 2. He has singled and struck out. You have to believe these two have seen each other before. Conforto at Oregon State and Lorenzen at Fullerton State.
Sure.
1 year apart.
Fullerton, of course, Southern California, loaded with colleges down there that are quite excellent baseball programs.
So Sean Gilmartin up in the Mets bullpen. Conforto flies one out to left, and DeJesus is there, and that's the second out.
So we're going to show Darno's swing from the side, and when in loop, it's like a smile in the swing instead of a straight line. And let's see if that's the case. Oh, he's also tardy. So it's a slow bat right now that he's got a slow bat. At least on that swing. But he got it thrown by him twice in that at bat.
Ruben Tejada 0 for 2 tonight.
I don't know if the folks at home were able to see that. It has to be in a very professional practiced eye like my own to pick those things up.
Yes, indeed. Kelly Johnson has come out on deck to bat for Mats if Tejada keeps the inning going. You saw Gilmartin up in the bullpen. Practiced indeed. Mats is at 85 pitches through 5 and just struggled a bit in the 5th, so it looks like his night might be done. Two and 1 to Tejada. And picks off the corner, 2 and 2.
Well, all these young men today, these so removed from my generation, they're all 6'5", 6'6", 6'4". They're monsters.
And they all throw 97 miles an hour. Line Devato for the 3rd out, so Lorenzen has a 1-2-3 inning out of the bullpen. Middle of the 6th in Cincinnati, the Mets up a run. SNY Game Day on SNY.TV, featuring pitch-by-pitch coverage, player cards, and in-depth stats. Check out SNY Game Day on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Steven Matz is still on the mound as we start the bottom of the 6th. Jay Bruce leads off, swings at the first pitch fastball. Bruce is struck out and lined out to right 0 for 2. Suarez and Pena to follow, 6, 7, and 8 in the order for the Reds. Matt's working with a 3-2 lead. And this is with the breaking ball, and it's 1-1. Matts gave up a run in the first, a run in the 5th. Thousand hits, 200 home runs as a Red. There are only half a dozen of them, and Jay Bruce is one. He pulls one down to Duda, who handles it off to the side.
Nice play.
And that's the first out. That's given up some shots in the last couple of innings.
Nice play, Lucas. Balls are hit hard. Nice. Easy play, made it look easy.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Eugenio Suarez, who's 1 for 2. And he lines one into the gap in right center field. That's going to scoot all the way to the wall. And Suarez will pull into second base with a 1-out double. So these last couple of innings, Steven Matz really fooling nobody. They're hitting rockets against him. And they've got the tying run in scoring position.
Well, I think what he needs against the that's ball's right down the pipe. Down, nice hitting. The right-handed lineup, I like to get that overhand curveball that he has. He needs that as a weapon.
We'll see how much farther Terry Collins will go with him. He's got the switch hitting Brian Pena, who's a better left-hand hitter than right at the plate. And then you got the pitcher spot up next. Suarez the tying run at second with 1 out. And the fastball misses to Pena.
There's the base knock right there. Another one of those guys that lifts that front leg and kind of hangs in the air, much like Darryl Strawberry and Duda.
Fly ball left center, and Cespedes should have an easy play. That's the second out. Suarez holding at second. So 2 away. And now we'll get Adam Duvall as a pinch hitter. Eric Adell just watching. Sean Gilmartin continuing to throw. Duvall, who first came up with the Giants last year, has had 43 at-bats with the Reds. Came over in the deadline deal for Mike Leake. When Leake went to the Giants.
7 as a pinch hitter. 1 for 7. That one hit was a home run, a 2-run homer.
And he pulls one down to third. Tough hop. It gets by right, and that'll tie up the game. Suarez comes in to score, and it's a 3-3 ball game. That hop just ate up David Wright. They're going to give Duvall credit for a base hit. And for the first time in his career, Steven Matz has given up 3 runs in a game.
Well, David tried to stay in front.
Matz had been the first pitcher in Mets history to give up 2 or fewer runs in each of his first 5 starts. That string is over, and so is his night.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
So a 3-3 game in the 6th. Mets will go to the bullpen. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Eric Adell on his way in as Matz departs. We'll be right back. Guard on the mound against Anthony DeSclafani. Our coverage begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow night right here on SNY. Steven Matz done after 5 2/3. He got hit very hard the last 2 innings after striking out 8 in the first 4 innings.
Well, they got off like gangbusters. There's Eric Goodell from San Mateo, my area, my neck of the woods. 30th game for him.
Hasn't pitched since the Sunday night game against the Yankees when he faced just 2 batters. Jason Bourgeois up with the tie-breaking run at first. And he takes a letter-high strike. Bourgeois 0 for 3, struck out twice and lined to center against Matz, who gave up 10 hits over 5 2/3. Didn't walk a batter, struck out 8 through 93 pitches. Slider from Goodell, and Bourgeois lays off 1-1.
Really, I think Goodell's breaking pitch to me, Gary, is more like a curveball. It's got good down tilt. He's got a good breaking ball.
And he's got that splitter to go with it. This is just off the plate with a fastball, 2-1. Well, we talked about it earlier with Matz. You know, he'll have only one more regular season start. And, you know, everybody is assuming that the Mets are going to use their 4 young starters if they get to a postseason, as Goodell throws a good splitter to get even. But I think there's a lot to still be examined, and whether the Mets might be better off in a relief role to give the Mets the lefty they don't really have. I don't know. It's going to be interesting over the next 10 days to see how it all shakes out. 2-2 coming, and he strikes him out with a splitter. So Eric Goodell comes in to fan Jason Bourgeois, who strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. But the Reds get even in the 6th. 3-3 going to the 7th. Pitchers Steven Matz and Josh Smith matching up for the 2nd time. Neither fared all that well. Matz given up 10 hits, striking out 8 over 5 2/3. And then there's Eric Goodell on his splitter.
Oh, there it is, plain and simple. Oh, really a wide grip, almost like a forkball.
Well, he's got about a, what, 10-mile-an-hour disparity between his fastball and his splitter, so it is almost like a changeup. Michael Kadire will bat for Goodell as Manny Parra, the left-hander, has come on for the Reds here in the 7th.
Well, the much-traveled Manny Parra. Remember him, and then was starting with the Brewers.
Now in his 3rd year with the Reds, working exclusively out of the bullpen. Kadire pinch hit last night and struck out against the Braves. And Parra falls behind him 2-0. Kadire, then Granderson and Wright as the Mets try and regain the lead in the 7th. Mets led 3-1 by the Reds with a run in the 5th and a run in the 6th against Mats to get back even. And Michael takes it wide, and now Parra behind 3-0. Parra normally has very good control, only 6 walks this year in 29 2/3 innings. There's Granderson on deck. Michael Lorenzen looked very good in relief. Retired the Mets 1-2-3 in the 6th. Here's a strike, 3-1. Addison Reed is up in the Mets bullpen after a rough night last night. Gave up the 2-run double to Freddie Freeman. By the way, Freeman last night had the 2-run double, the 3-run homer, 5 RBIs off the bench, and the folks at Elias went back and looked, and there was only one other player who has ever had 5 RBIs off the bench against the Mets, and it was a kind of an obscure guy. 3-2 to Kadire, and he lifts one foul. It was back in 1972. The Cardinals beat the Mets 11-0, and Luis Melendez,
Well, he's the 4th outfielder for the Cardinals.
right, came off the bench at a pinch hit grand slam in the 5th, an RBI single in the 6th. He's the only other player before Freeman last night to drive in 5 runs off the bench against the Mets.
It was 72, you said?
72. Just before you got there.
And that was the back in the day when you had Lou in left. Gosh, I've forgotten. It's been so long.
Kurt Flood was gone, so he wasn't in center field.
You know, when I was invited, yeah, it was gone. Bake McBride was not there then, I don't
Right.
believe. When I got my first big league camp, Gary, I was invited in '74, I believe. Matty Alou was on the team.
Really?
Yes.
Kadire lines one, and Suarez with a nice pickup on the backhand, and he throws out Kadire. That was a bullet, and Suarez stayed with it for the first down.
Nice backhand here and a bullet. And recovery.
So one hard out from Kadire to start the 7th inning. We showed the Reds bullpen. Burke Badenhop is up, the right-hander for them, with David Wright on deck. But first it's Granderson to face the lefty. And Parra bends one inside, ball 1. Granderson 0 for 3 tonight, now just 2 for his last 25. So Curtis, who has played so well for so long this year, has hit a little bit of a skid, and he has struggled all year against left-hand pitching.
Good breaking ball right there from Parra. Curtis has learned to become very patient up there at the plate.
Manny Parra, now 32 years old. The back end of the Reds bullpen can be very difficult to deal with, particularly the guy in the 9th inning. And of course is Aroldis Chapman. That's hit hard, and Phillips can't get it. A base hit for Granderson. So Curtis, who came into the night hitting just 172 against lefties, hits a shot, and the former Gold Glover couldn't quite get to it, and Granderson's aboard.
Fastball turned on it. And that gets David Wright to the plate, who's always been poison to left-hand pitchers.
I'm shocked. He's got the right-hander up in the bullpen. Why is Brian Price not going to him?
You've got Murph. It's that right left that the Mets can feature.
But he's got a million guys in that bullpen.
Yes, he does. And the game would last 9 hours if he did that.
And that's only a slight exaggeration. He has 13 relievers. So David gets to face the lefty with the go-ahead run at first, and he takes below the knees from Parra. That's magic number at 4 after the Nats lost to the Orioles this afternoon. What might be informing Brian Price's decision here is that David's only 2 for 11 against Parra.
I'm sure it is. So much reliance on statistics in today's game. Little did
but that's a statistic too, by the way. 394 against lefties. It's the battling statistics.
I understand.
Dueling digits.
It's interesting. Little did I'm assuming, and I bet you I'm correct, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates had no idea when they developed these computers the effect it would have on this game.
I don't think that's the first thing that was on their minds. Doing one to right.
Think about it.
Well, there's more information available than ever, and it's being parsed in so many more different ways. Granderson at first and 1 out. 3-3 game in the 7th. And Wright hits one in there to right field. Bruce to the warning track, has room, and makes the catch. 2 out. So now Murphy will face the left-hander. Murph's had another good night tonight, 2 for 3, scored a run. And Parra works him inside. Murphy 1 for 3 in his career against Manny Parra. That's drilled down the right field line. It'll go to the corner. Granderson races around second. Bruce has to go all the way to the wall to get it. Granderson will try to score. Phillips' relay to the plate is not in time, and the Mets regain the lead. Murphy goes to third. Daniel Murphy gets the Mets in front, and it's 4-3 New York. Third hit of the night for Daniel Murphy, who's just raging hot. And Granderson sprints home from first.
Hanging slider, Daniel, beautifully done. Line drive swing. Similar play at the plate earlier. Relay throw. Much quicker runner in Granderson. And Daniel wisely on the throw home, advances to third.
Well, the official scorer very generously has given Murphy a triple.
No, that's got to be a double.
It should be a double and third on the throw. But
double and a third and a throw. But I'm going to mark it a double.
I don't think Murph will quibble. His second triple of the year. So the Mets back in front.
Well, once you pick up Tough, you see that, and Tough's letting him know, hopefully, that the throw was coming home.
Murphy's first triple of the year came last Friday in Steven Matz's start against the Yankees. And he gets his second triple 6 days later in Matz's next start. So the Mets, who led 3-1, saw the Reds tied against Matz, and now they've got the lead back in the 7th. And Cespedes looking to get an additional run home with 2 out. Cespedes a single and a sacrifice fly tonight, 1 for 2. And Parra runs one in on him, and it's 0-2. One and two, excuse me.
Murph has just come up really, really large down this stretch run. Hitting .301 with runners in scoring position this season, and showing it tonight.
Hitting .480 now the last 7 games with a 3-hit night tonight. Cespedes cracks one into center, and that'll bring another run home. Murphy trots in. Cespedes with his second RBI of the night. It's 5-3 New York.
Rip. Both base hits by Cespedes are bullets up the middle.
That's 105 RBIs for Yoenis Cespedes.
Beautifully done.
So Parra survived David Wright, who hit one to the warning track in right field, but 2 out hits by Murphy and Cespedes played a pair for the Mets in the 7th. And now Duda, who had an RBI double back in the 3rd.
There's the swing right there. Ball out over the plate. Stayed in. Beautiful follow through. I love his swing.
Well, the Mets have taken advantage of their 2-out opportunities tonight. With 2 outs and runners on base, the Mets are 5 for 8. Duda had a 2-out double to drive in a run in the 3rd.
And Terry mentioned how poorly the Mets were the last homestand with runners in scoring position.
Said they were chasing too much, particularly with men on base. Parra throw over to first. Oh, and 2 to Duda. Eric Goodell, who got the strikeout to end the last half inning, pitcher of record on the long side now. Leaving for a pinch hitter here in the 7th. Addison Reed getting ready in the Mets bullpen. All 3 of the Mets late inning relievers have struggled in the last few days. Perry trying to get him back on track tonight. That's it out to left center field, slicing away from Bourgeois to the warning track, and it lands and hops against the wall. Cespedes will score easily. Second double, second RBI of the night for Duda, and the Mets now lead 6-3.
And that's going to be it for Parra. And just a wonderful 3-run, 2-out rally here for the Metsies.
Murphy, Cespedes, and Duda all ripping it to drive in runs with 2 out.
So Duda picking it up, Gary.
These last 2 nights, Duda on base almost constantly. His second double of the night knocks Parra out of the game. Call to the bullpen brought to you by River Spring. We'll be right back. Up the mess for the Reds in the 7th.
Badenhop, if you can recall, used to be remember him as a Miami Marlin, and he's just bounced around the league.
Been with Tampa Bay, Milwaukee, Boston. Now his first year with the Reds. Travis d'Arnaud takes ball 1. In fact, Badenhop was with the Marlins so long ago. He was a Florida Marlin, never a Miami Marlin. Last year with the Marlins was 2011 before they moved to the new ballpark. Travis 0 for 3 tonight. He flies one to shallow right. And Jay Bruce moves under it. That retires the side, but not before the Mets regain the lead with a 3 spot in the 7th. Stretch time with the Mets up 6-3. Down 1-0, up 3-1. Reds tied it with single runs against Steven Matz in the 5th and 6th, but the Mets went right back out and claimed it back in the 7th, and now Addison Reed will try and protect it in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, Reed had a tough outing with the men on base, as Gary mentioned, as he came in with inherited runners scoring, 2 of them, I believe, in that inning. Hard thrower. Like him better coming in, starting an inning.
Last night gave up a hit to Michael Bourne that drove in a run. Freddie Freeman a 2-run double that should have been a 3-run double, except for some bad base running by Bourne.
Oh boy, it was a terrible base running.
And then Reed, with the bases loaded, got a double play ball to get out of it. So he'll try and put together a better night tonight. He'll take on 2, 3, and 4 in the Reds batting order. Ivan DeJesus has 2 hits tonight. Both have gone to right field. And he takes a strike. Steven Matz went 5 2/3, allowed 3 runs, 10 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts, and no decision for him. Eric Goodell struck out the only man he faced. He's pitcher of record on the long side. Joey Votto waits on deck, and then Brandon Phillips. And Reed overpowers DeJesus 0-2.
Well, Reed's got a live fastball. He's always had a live fastball. There's Votto.
It will be interesting to see how Terry handles the end of this game. Tyler Clippard has worked 3 straight days, and generally Terry likes to stay away from pitchers who've gone 3 days in a row.
I would agree with that.
So then, if that's the case, who would get the 8th inning? Toward the middle of the diamond, but that's where Tejada is. Gets a nice charity hop and throws out DeJesus for the first down.
Well, let's take a peek. I would go. They got Parnell. That's the only guy I can see.
He hasn't pitched in a while.
Let Robles have a day off.
Or to use Goodell.
Or do you go 2 innings with Reed?
Or, you know, an inning and 2/3 with Reed and an inning and a third with Familia. You could do that too. May depend on whether the Mets can add some runs in the 8th inning. First, Joey Votto, who's 2 for 3 tonight. And a good fastball on the corner, 0-1. Votto singled to center, singled just off Murphy's glove into right center, and then with a couple of men on in the 5th, Matt's got him to foul out.
Oh, got a late timeout call there.
Well, don't you remember when he got into that whole tizzy with Bill Welke? It was because of a timeout that was not granted, and Votto almost lost his mind and wound up getting suspended for his efforts. So Adam Hamari was quick to give him time.
Oh, good slider right there. Well, it's always those quiet guys when they snap. You got to watch out.
Well, you know those Canadians, they're very mild-mannered until they're not.
Oh, look at this.
I mean, he really snapped.
Oh, boy.
And he was lucky he only got 2-game suspension.
Yeah, he
It
was.
could have been a lot worse.
Boy, he viciously angry.
Like a hockey fight.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Next thing I expected was to see the umpire with his sweater pulled over his head.
Serious snap right there.
He's always been very nice to you.
I think he's a terrific guy. Everybody has their day.
2-2 to Votto. Remember when you were sitting down behind home plate that one
Yes,
game?
I do.
When he was in the on-deck circle?
Come up and going out was a way to say hello to me.
On the air.
Yes. He's a good kid.
Has that been in our great moments 10 years on SNY reel?
Oh, it made it. It made it. Oh, let's make note. Look, this is one of the best hitters in the league, in both leagues, for you kids out there. And look how much he's choking up on his bat. 2 inches on his bat. Serious choke up.
And Reed walks him. And for Votto, that's 138 walks this year, which is the most for anybody since Barry Bonds set the major league record back in 2004. Of course, Bonds that year, when he walked 232 times, was intentionally walked 120 times.
It was ridiculous.
Including once with the bases loaded. As crazy as that sounds now. So the Reds have a 1-out base runner. Now Brandon Phillips has driven in 2 of the 3 Cincinnati runs tonight, with base hits against Matz in the 1st and in the 5th. And Reed misses with a first pitch slider. You do not want Phillips to get on base because you got 2 home run hitters behind him in Frazier and Bruce. Its bullpen is quiet. And Phillips foul tips the fastball, 1-1. Phillips 0 for 2 in his career against Addison Reed. Brandon Phillips, now 34 years old, in his 10th year with the Reds. Double play ball. Murphy with the flip, Tejada with the turn, 4-6-3 double play, and just like that, Addison Reed finds his way out of trouble in the 7th. On to the 8th with the Mets up 6-3. puts the Mets 2 games behind LA at the moment for possible home field. Mets box score presented by Skechers. Mets have had 2 big innings, a 3-run third and a 3-run seventh. A couple of RBIs for Lucas Duda, 2 for Yoenis Cespedes, and the Mets have a 6-3 lead going to the 8th, and Sam LeCure will be the 5th Cincinnati pitcher of the night.
LeCure has been a Cincinnati Redleg, came up in 2010, a mainstay in that bullpen, but down in the minors this year, recently called up. Only his 15th game.
31-year-old from the University of Texas will face Conforto, Tejada, and the pitcher's spot. And again, we don't know yet who's going to pitch the 8th inning for the Mets. This will be interesting to see. With Clippard on the sidelines today, and it is Hansel Robles getting himself loose. So that appears to be the call for Terry. Michael Conforto 1 for 3 tonight, had a base hit back in the 2nd. And he pulls one down to first. Votto knocks it down and has time to make the flip to LeCure for the first out. So 1 pitch and 1 retired in the 8th. Now Ruben Tejada. Ruben's gone 0 for 3 tonight. Lined out to Votto his last time up. The starter for the Reds, Josh Smith, went 5, allowed 3 runs, 7 hits, struck out a career-high 5. Michael Lorenzen had an easy 6th, but Manny Parra had a very rough time in the 7th after the Reds had tied the game. 3 straight 2-out RBI hits for the Mets from Murphy, Cespedes, and Duda gave the Mets this 6-3 lead. Burke Badenhop got an out in the 7th, and now LeCure working in the 8th. Reds just got swept in a series by the Cardinals. Not surprising. Cardinals are the best team in baseball this year, going for their 97th win tonight. And a very important milestone for the Cardinals in that game against the Reds last night. The first start since July 29th for Matt Holliday. So all those missing pieces for the Cardinals are coming back, but now they have to contend with the loss of Yadier Molina, which could be the toughest one to overcome of all. They got Matt Adams back recently after that long quad injury. Another base hit for Tejada after 3 hits last night. So his fine September continues, and the Mets have a 1-out base runner in the 8th.
It's just amazing how Tejada, you give him a few days of rest, and he's fresh, and he does well. Gives you a little spurt, a little burst, and then you got to sit him down again.
Which really makes it fascinating to think about how the Mets are going to use their shortstops come postseason. Do you play Flores with his home run bat? Do you play Tejada with his better on base percentage and better defense? Kelly Johnson, the pinch hitter for Reed. It's a hard call, isn't it?
It is a hard call. But I know one thing. If they go with Flores and they got a lead, Tejada goes out there for defense late.
You know, there are really 2 ways of looking at it. The first way is the pitching tends to dominate in the postseason. You're playing close, low-scoring games. So 1 run, 1 error could be the key in a game.
I agree.
But at the same time, often a home run can be the difference in a 2-1, 3-2 game. Both arguments are compelling. And Terry Collins was talking about it tonight. He said you can argue both, and you're not wrong either way.
Right.
Sometimes it comes down to who you think can better handle the moment.
That's right. And you can make all the right moves in the world, and the cards may not play out the way you thought. You can do everything right, push all the right buttons, but you never know how the game's going to unfold.
Curtis Granderson on deck. Johnson pitch hit last night and struck out in the 8th inning. Tejada at first and 1 out. Cardinals, by the way, lead the Brewers 7-3 going to the 8th tonight. Pittsburgh won this afternoon. Came from behind, got a 3-run homer late from Pedro Alvarez to beat Colorado. The Pirates clinched a postseason berth last night. Cardinals had already clinched that. And Johnson goes down on the curveball in the dirt. LeCure has his first strikeout, 2 away.
Well, it's going to be a very. Go ahead, Gary, with your trivia.
Oh, it's time for the trivia answer.
You're so trivial.
3 players, 300, 30 homers, 150 walks.
Oh, it's going to be Teddy Ballgame, Babe Ruth, and Barry Bonds, of course. I mean, that's 3 pretty good players.
And among them, they did it 9 times, which makes it even more amazing.
It's as I was going to say before we had the trivia answer, is that it's going to be a very interesting 1-game Cub Pirate wild card,
which will be sealed shortly. I mean, the Pirates still have a chance to catch the Cardinals. They started the day 4 games behind and won today, but as we mentioned, the Cardinals leading tonight. The Cubs started the day with a magic number of 2 for clinching their postseason berth. If they win and the Giants lose, then they clinch that. 2-0 to Granderson. Well, I think that regardless of where that game is played, you have to give the Cubs the upper hand just because of how good Jake Arrieta has been.
Yes, but the Pirates are a team that is got spunk. They're good. It's going to be a heck of a ball game.
And they play great at home, which, you know, if the standings hold the way they are now, the game would be in Pittsburgh.
I'm going to watch that with interest.
What was interesting to me last night was when the Pirates clinched a postseason berth, they celebrated very little. You know, there was a time a couple of years ago when even the mention of postseason would have sent the Pirates into a tizzy after 20 straight losing seasons.
Right.
But they're used to it now. This is 3 straight years now they're going to the postseason.
Hey, it's not enough now. We're good. We're confident. This is only step 1.
It's where the Mets hope to be the next few years, where getting to the postseason becomes routine. Right now they just like to get there once. Off the corner to Granderson, it's 3-1. So Terry Collins said tonight. They were asking him about, do you want home field and what about the he said, I just want to get there. Can we just get there? I mean, you think about it, the Mets haven't been there in 9 years, but Terry's never been to the postseason as a manager. Never got there with the Astros or with the Angels, although they came close a few times. 3-1 to Granderson. And Curtis flies one along the left field line. Who's going to get there? DeJesus and Frazier. And Frazier with a nice play. Going right near the corner of those low stands. Frazier making a terrific play to end the inning. Ballboy gets out of the way with the chair, and Frazier makes it look easy. It was not easy. Where you'll experience 2 jaw-dropping theme parks. Stay on site at Universal's Cabana Bay Beach Resort. Plus, attend the VIP grand opening of Universal's newest dining experience, NBC Sports Grill and Brew. Just go to Facebook.com/SNY for your chance to win. Yoenis Cespedes to left, Juan Lagares to center. The usual late inning outfield alignment for the Mets. Hansel Robles in to pitch the bottom of the 8th. And Todd Frazier takes outside for ball 1.
There's Robles' numbers right there. He either comes in and blows out the fort, or he gets blown out.
Pitched the 8th inning 2 nights ago against the Braves and worked a 1-2-3 inning on 9 pitches. You'd love one of those. Frazier tonight 0 for 3. Came up with 2 men on in the 5th and just got under one. Hit it to the warning track in left field. That got Steven Matz through that 5th inning. Robles behind 2-0. And Frazier hits this one in the air to center. Should be easy for Lagares. 1 out. So far, the Mets have gotten 4 outs from their bullpen. Steven Matz went 5 2/3 and no decision for him tonight. Eric Goodell got the final out in the 6th. Addison Reed a hitless 7th. And now Robles trying to negotiate the 8th. They'll face Jay Bruce with 1 out and nobody on. Bruce is 0 for 3. Struck out, lined out, grounded out. Mets 6 runs and 12 hits. The Reds 3 runs and 10 hits. That's with a pair of 3-run innings in the 3rd and in the 7th. Took a lead, lost the lead, took the lead back. And Robles quickly ahead 0-2 on Bruce. Eugenio Suarez on deck. Quick pitch.
Oh.
And he got nailed for it. No pitch.
Won't allow him to do that.
And he called a ball. He called a ball, which is in the rules. He pointed to him, said it's no pitch, and then called it. And you heard Terry Collins from the dugout say it can't be a ball.
Oh, well, he's coming out.
It's either no pitch or
right.
it's a pitch. It can't be both.
That's right. I agree. There's no one on base.
If you're saying that the hitter wasn't set and the pitch shouldn't count, that's one thing. But if it doesn't count, it can't be a ball.
That's Angel Hernandez coming in, having to always get in the middle of stuff. The crew chief takes over. Angel, get your fanny back to first.
Yeah, Ted Barrett is the crew chief.
Always got to get his nose in something.
Maybe Angel forgot he wasn't the crew chief because he has filled in at times this year. So Ted Barrett, the crew chief, is there with the home plate umpire Adam Hamari, who made the call. You heard Terry say, Ted, we just had it, because this has been an ongoing thing with Robles. Teams have been objecting to his quick pitching. Now, Bruce certainly looked ready in the box. Now, what was that?
Nothing. That was that. And you know what?
Then what was the pointing? What was that?
Well, the pointing was he just called it.
So he didn't say no pitch. So the pitch counted. So why did he point at Robles? Either it's an illegal pitch or it's not.
But no one's on base, so you just say that's no pitch.
Well, the problem you ran into in Philadelphia was Darren Ruff with his head down. That was an entirely different circumstance, but Bruce was in the box. He was looking up.
That's bull, Gary. If you're a hitter and you get caught with your pants down, got getting quick pitched, that's your negligence.
I just don't understand what Hamari's motion was. If it wasn't a no pitch, which it wasn't, then why was he pointing at Robles? And I'm sure that's what Terry would like to know too. Why he came out of the dugout.
He probably said that's a ball. That's why he pointed it out.
But the ball was out of the strike zone anyway. In the air to deep right center field, headed toward the wall, and that ball's out of here. Jay Bruce lifts his 26th home run of the year to cut the Met lead to 2. It's now 6-4 New York. So Robles got ahead 0-2. Then that little run in with the umpires and got it to 3-2, and Bruce hit it out of the ballpark.
Well, all or nothing, Jay Bruce. That's a hanging slide ball right there.
So now it's Suarez with 1 out and nobody on, and he pops it up. Tejada waiting for it to come down. And that's the 2nd out. Let's go back to that quick pitch a couple of moments ago.
But that's...
Now, was Bruce trying to call time when he took his top hand off the bat? You sure?
No, I can't tell. But if Bruce has not got his hand on the bat, that's his fault.
Was he reaching out with the hand trying to ask the umpire for time?
You're not going to get time at that point.
So I go back to, what was Hamari's motion at Robles for? What was that about?
Gary, you've got me. I mean, I hit off Jim Cott, who was the biggest quick pitcher there ever was. And you just knew that he would quick pitch you, and you had to get in the box and be ready to go.
Here's the part I don't understand. There are plenty of people who throw quick pitches, including other members of the Mets staff, like Familia. And nobody seems to get in any trouble for it other than Robles. And this has happened 3 or 4 times now.
Let's see if he's calling time.
Well, it ends up being a moot point, except that you wonder if it affected Robles for the remainder of the at-bat. 1-2 coming to Pena, and that's slapped to short. Tejada in front of it, and that retires the side. So Pena, Robles gives up the home run to Jay Bruce, but settles himself back in and sends us to the 9th with a 6-4 Med lead. All right, gentlemen, and after the post game, it's Geico Sports Night with Chris Carlin. Keith, apparently the Pope approves of your mustache.
Oh, well, thank you, Your Eminence.
Glad that Chris has that covered. much more important than the football game, don't you think?
Yes.
Jose Rafael Diaz, better known as Jumbo, on to pitch for the Reds.
Folks, 6'4", 278. That's what he's listed at. And he's not playing left end, defensive end for the Giants. Up and down all year with the Louisville's their AAA team now, the Reds.
Wright, Murphy, and Cespedes looking to increase the Mets' lead in the ninth. Mets up 6-4. Diaz, the sixth Cincinnati pitcher of the night. David Wright had an RBI double to drive in the first run for the Mets tonight. That was back in the third. He's 1 for 4, and he takes a slider for a strike.
I don't think anybody's going to charge the mound on this guy. If you do, you better go for the stomach. He's got a little softy there working. Missed a few sit-ups in spring training.
.97-mile-an-hour fastball, and Wright fouls it off. Daniel Murphy waiting on deck. Yankees have beaten the White Sox tonight 3-2. They pull within 3 games of Toronto, which has the night off. It was Michael Pineda winning his 12th. Wright takes a call, third strike, and that's the first out. And the Yankees beat Chris Sale. I think that's the first time they've ever beaten Sale.
They beat Sale tonight. Well, he throws hard, Jumbo. David wanted no part of that fastball. Stepping in the bucket all the way, and Fanny flying out.
Now Daniel Murphy, it's been a big night for Murph. 3 for 4, 2 singles and an RBI triple that put the Mets back in front in the 7th. Mets 6 runs, 12 hits. The Reds 4 runs, 11 hits. And Murph has 3 of the dozen for the Mets. Takes a good rip at that fastball and fouls it back. Reds will have 9, 1, and 2 in the batting order coming up in the last of the ninth. Pitcher spot, then Bourgeois and DeJesus. Jerry's Familia will be trying to shake off the memory of Freddie Freeman when he takes the mound for the bottom of the ninth, getting himself ready for a save chance. Jumbo Diaz first signed with the Dodgers, coming out of the Dominican Republic. Didn't make it to the big leagues till last year at the age of 30. He had been through 5 different organizations before he finally made it to the big leagues with the Reds. 2-1 to Murphy. Pitched in 36 games for the Reds last year, 56 more this year. Threw that fastball by Murphy, 2-2. And Murphy breaks his bat as he pulls that foul. And he'll go back for some new lumber.
That one had to be 6 inches inside. That would have broken anybody's bat.
Diaz at the end of 2013 weighed 347 pounds.
Wow.
So he's lost a lot of weight.
Nice. Jeez.
And Well, that's how he finally got to the big leagues after all those years going through all those different organizations. He finally lost enough weight to be able to pitch effectively at this level. Three-two to Murph, and he struck him out with a fastball. So back-to-back strikeouts for Jumbo Diaz to start the top of the ninth.
Well, he can bring it up there. He's got his big arm, strong arm.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Cespedes, who's had a good night at the plate, 2 for 3. A sacrifice fly, 2 runs batted in. His 50th game for the Mets. He now has 44 runs batted in a Mets uniform, 105 RBIs for the year. Slider in for a strike. When you lose that much weight, wonder if they ever considered changing his nickname.
He's still Jumbo.
But he's not as Jumbo.
Remember Jumbo Elliott, left tackle.
Once caught a touchdown pass for the Jets. Cespedes terribly fooled on that slider, and it's 1-2.
I mean, a guy like this, Gary, you just got to look for a fastball. A little easier to be a left-hand hitter against him, but he's brushing it up there pretty good.
One-two coming, and the slider just missed. 2-2. Lucas Duda would be next. Lucas had a good night with a pair of RBI doubles. Cespedes catches up with that fastball and fouls it back.
Cespedes taking some good cuts.
Two out and nobody on. 2-2 to Cespedes. And he struck him out.
Oh, boy.
So Jumbo Diaz strikes out the side in the top of the ninth. That was impressive. The slimmed down Jumbo. Familia in to try to save it. SNY is brought to you by Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By Pepsi, the official soft drink of Major League Baseball. By Optimum, presenting Mets games in crystal clear HD. By Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. And by Astoria Bank. At Astoria Bank, the difference is wanting to make a difference. Visit AstoriaBank.com. Jerry's Familia took the loss last night for the Mets. Comes back tonight looking for his 42nd save.
Well, gave up the 3-run bomb to Freddie Freeman, who had one of the, well, I guess the finest performance of a player coming off the bench against the Mets. 5 RBIs, 2-run double, 3-run home run off Jerry Reese, but he's looking to bounce back and get the Mets' magic number to Bud Harrelson.
Skip Schumacher will be the pinch hitter for the Reds. Leading off in the bottom of the 9th, Jason Bourgeois, Ivan DeJesus to follow. If anybody gets on, Joey Votto will get a turn. Schumacher at 238 for the year. First pitch swinging with his team down by 2 runs. That's a bit of a shock for a guy as fundamentally sound as Schumacher. And he grounds out for the first out. That's shocking to you?
It is.
I mean, Schumacher's a guy you think of as being a smart ball player.
Also, the fact is, too, your good team is going nowhere. You don't know if the manager said, hey, go up there and hit. You just don't know.
So one quick out for Familia. Now Jason Bourgeois, who's 0 for 4 tonight, struck out 3 times. The last one against Eric Goodell, the only man he faced in the 6th, and Goodell stands to be the winner. And Familia misses low with a sinker for ball 1. Familia with 41 saves. The only pitcher who's ever had more saves in a season for the Mets is Armando Benitez. He holds the record with 43, and that is well within Familia's reach. A nasty sinker, 1-1. There are the single season leaders. For Benitez coming to the season at the 2 top save seasons in Mets history. And now Familia breathing down his neck. 1-1 to Bourgeois, and a fastball strike. 1-2. Ivan DeJesus on deck. Quick pitch. Nobody objects, and Bourgeois fouls it off. But nobody ever objects when Familia does it.
Only Hansel.
Maybe it's because Jerry is such a nice guy. One-two coming. Struck him out. Good looking slider to strike out Bourgeois, and they're a 2-man down.
Well, he got hurt with the splitter yesterday, Gare, on Freddie Freeman, which he likes to throw that splitter to the lefties. He hung it, and slider here.
Interesting, he has not thrown a splitter yet in this inning. Pitch he was throwing to excess at times over the last couple of weeks. So now it's DeJesus, and this is a critical batter because if he gets on, Votto would come up as the tying run. DeJesus 2 for 4 tonight, and fastball in for a strike. 0-1.
Boy, he's pouring in some low cheese, and like he said, okay, I'm amending, making up for my performance yesterday, making amends to his teammates.
0-1 to DeJesus. Bouncing ball. Tejada in the hole. A long throw to make. He got him, and the ball game is over. Jerry's Familia registers his 42nd save. The Mets with a pair of 3-run innings. Daniel Murphy 3 hits. Lucas Duda and Yoenis Cespedes 2 RBIs. And the Mets take the opener in Cincinnati and reduce their magic number to 3 for clinching the National League East.
Well, more importantly, Gear, 6 runs on the board. Murph, the offensive hero, as well as Cespedes. When Cespedes goes well, the team seems to go well. the 6 runs team-wise is good that this team scored runs. I felt that they would get out of New York here, get on the road and play well, and they, as you said, they have got that magic number down to 3 on their way.
A no decision for Steven Matz. He got hit hard in his last 2 innings of work, gave up 10 hits over 5 2/3, but the bullpen was solid. Just 1 run allowed over 3 1/3. Familia gets the save that gets him within 1 of Benitez for the club record, as the Mets win it 6-4 and take the opener here in Cincinnati and get that magic number down to a Bud Harrelson-like 3. For every Mets win, the Mets Foundation is proud to contribute $2,500 to the Cats Women's Hospital and the Cats Institute for Women's Health. For more information, visit northshorelij.com/KIWH. This win brings the total contributions so far this season to $215,000.